These are probably the two most popular phones right now with the word Pro in the name. By now, you've probably seen tons of videos comparing them both, but I want to do something a bit different. Instead of putting them head to head and telling you what I think, I'm going to let you be the judge. In fact, we're going to make it a little game. I'm going to show you 16 demonstrations of features that both the iPhone 17 Pro and the Pixel 10 Pro have, and you're going to guess which is which. I'll give you the answer, and then, who knows, maybe you'll be surprised by the reality. For the first few tests, let's keep it simple with some photos. Here are two photos with one snapped by the iPhone's main rear lens and one by the Pixel's. Which one do you think is better, and which one do you think is which? Got your choice made? Here is the answer. Try to keep score as we go through all of these and see how well trained your eye really is. Next up is a zoomed in photo at 10x. Remember that both phones have very similar telephoto hardware, but the iPhone is only capable of 4x optical zoom, while the Pixel can go to 5x optical. Hopefully that info helped you, because here are the answers for this round. What about selfies? This one is a little weird because the Pixel's selfie camera has a higher megapixel count, but the iPhone has a larger aperture, so each has its own strengths and weaknesses. But here are the answers for this one. If you are truly surprised by any of these, be sure to post in the comments about it. Next up is a low light photo. Pixels use night sight for this, and iPhones use night mode, but which one makes this dark scene look better? I have a feeling some people are going to be faked out by this one, but here you go, all is revealed. So, how are you doing so far? Was it easy to tell the two phones apart when it comes to photography? Well, don't jump away just yet, because we did some photos, but now we need to do some videos. All right, so this is a standard video shot in 4K at 60 frames per second. Nothing special. The audio you're hearing now is from phone A, without a mic or anything. Now we've swapped to phone B for audio, once again without any mic. Which one do you think sounds better and looks better? Okay, here's which one is which. Remember, this is from the main rear lens on both cameras. Let's do the selfie cameras next. Okay, so now I've switched both phones to the front-facing cameras. As before, this is at 4K 60. The audio you're hearing now is from phone A, but let's switch over to phone B. How do you think this one sounds? I bet you guessed that we swapped the phones for this, but guess what? We didn't. Here's each phone's identity revealed. So this has been fun, but these shots are pretty simple. Let's put a little more pressure on by getting some movement in. Okay, here is the rear-facing camera while walking. Which phone do you think is which? We actually did swap them around this time, so they are slightly different, but now you have a good idea of what these phones will be like when you're recording video in various situations. Okay, it's nighttime now. I'm recording this on the selfie cameras of the Pixel 10 Pro and the iPhone 17 Pro, and yeah, one is definitely a lot better than the other. I feel like you're going to be able to tell by now just by the audio, but here are the answers of which phone is which. So yeah, keep this in mind if you're going to be planning on making a lot of selfie content at night. So we are officially at the halfway point. Let's pause for a second. I want you to look at your scorecard. How are you doing? Be honest in the comments. Are you getting these right because you actually spot the quality differences, or are you just guessing? Here is what I usually see happen at this point. People realize that the gap between these phones is much smaller than they have been led to believe. Even though the iPhone might still beat the Pixel for video, and the Pixel might still beat the iPhone for photos, the differences between them is much smaller than it used to be. Alright, let's move away from camera hardware now and get into the brains of the operation. Let's talk about something that is becoming the biggest battleground for phones, AI assistants. I asked the digital assistant on both phones the exact same complex question. Plan a 3-hour date night in San Francisco on Saturday for under $100 that includes sushi and a live show of some kind. First, you'll notice that the iPhone won't even get started on the question until I agree to let ChatGPT do the work, while Gemini on the Pixel 10 Pro gets right to it. But let's ignore that for now. For the sushi aspect of the request, Phone A gave me 2 choices and suggested sticking to a light meal to stay under $50. Phone B gave me 1 choice, but included the restaurant's hours, its location, and star rating. It also gave me a breakdown of what I could order to stay under $50. For the event aspect of the date, Phone A suggested we go to Sketchfest, which is silly because that doesn't start until January, so that's no help. It also suggested Piano Fight, which permanently closed all locations in 2023. So yeah, Phone A is not doing so well here. Meanwhile, Phone B suggested the Knockout, which is open and active, and even included the address and rating. Oh, Phone B also included a table breaking down how much things will cost, including travel, and a map showing the locations we'd be going to. I think everyone watching this would much prefer Phone B's answer to this question, and it shouldn't be surprising to know which phone that is. It's the Pixel, of course. I don't know about you, but I'm trusting Gemini for date night ideas forever after this test. Next up, let's test productivity, specifically the ability to summarize complex information. I opened the exact same 5,000-word Android Authority review of the OnePlus 15 on both phones and asked them to summarize the page. One phone gave me a one-paragraph summary of the core meat of the review and then 4 bullet points to give further clarity on how the reviewer came to their conclusions. The other phone gave me just one sentence. Based on how the previous test went, you probably won't be surprised as to which phone produced which answer, but here they are. Now, you can look at these two summaries in different ways. Maybe you're in a real rush and one sentence is all you need. However, I would argue that whittling down 5,000 words into one sentence is risky, as you have a high potential for losing a lot of nuance. Also, the fact that Gemini gives you bullet points to add further context if you need it is a lot more useful than just one sentence. But hey, this might just come down to personal preference. For this last utility test, imagine you are traveling and need something translated. I played a recording of a fast-speaking Spanish YouTuber to both phones using their live conversation translation modes. You'd think that both phones would be equal here, but one came away the translation leader like it was no contest. Ready for the reveal? As one might expect, the winner is the Pixel with Google Translate, which did much better than Apple's Translate app on the iPhone. Note the proper use of punctuation, as well as just being more accurate of a translation. However, Google doesn't win everything. Watch what happens when I simulate being somewhere with no service by putting both phones in airplane mode. That's right, Google Translate's microphone doesn't work at all, while Apple's Translate app works just fine. So yeah, Google Translate might be much more accurate, but it's not going to be quite as useful for travelers when there's not a reliable data connection. This next one is similar to the live translation, but it's something that I think is very important, which is voice to text. To test this out, I'm going to say the same thing to both phones and show you what they register. Smiling with teeth emoji. You should pay close attention to things like punctuation and capitalization. Also, note how it understands the difference between what I want written and when I'm giving commands. Change written to typed. Stop. All right, ready to find out which one is which? If you're a Pixel fan, you probably already knew the better one here, but iPhone users probably just learned something about what the voice-to-text experience is like on other phones. Here's another feature that both phones share by different names. I gave each phone the same image of our cute little foster kittens, which I photographed with my Sony ZV-E1. So, each phone has a fair chance. I used Magic Eraser on the Pixel and Cleanup on the iPhone to erase and replace a few objects in the scene. This is what each phone produced. Which one do you think did the better job? Here's which phone is which, and I think it's pretty clear which one wins this round. Keep this in mind if you find yourself erasing things from images often and don't know if a Pixel or an iPhone will be better for the job, because there is a right answer. We've looked at raw photos and videos, but let's be real, most of us live inside apps. Historically, this has been an area where the iPhone destroys Android because of better optimization with apps like Instagram and TikTok. But has the Pixel 10 Pro finally caught up? I recorded this story directly inside Instagram on both phones. I didn't upload a pre-recorded video. I used the app's camera system. Look closely at the video quality. Which one is the social media king? Here's which is which. One thing to note here is that it's not just about video quality, but also the app experience. On the iPhone, Instagram allows you to record a full-length reel in one recording, but on the Pixel, it only gives you 15 seconds at a time. It's a weird limitation, but another example of how the iPhone stays the best when it comes to creating social media content. One thing a lot of people use but doesn't get talked about a lot is how a phone sounds. For this test, I recorded what I'm saying on each phone, turned them to 50% volume, and played back the recording. Which one do you think sounds better?
For this test, I recorded what I'm saying on each phone, turned them to 50% volume, and played back the recording. Which one do you think sounds better? What about if we throw a little music in?
Okay, let's reveal which is which. So there you go. Now you know which phone will sound better when you're listening to music or voice recordings directly through the speakers. So we're winding down to the end of this here, but I want to touch a bit on gaming. This is a screen recording of Genshin Impact as seen on both phones with the same graphic settings. For this one, keep in mind that the processor inside the iPhone is much more powerful than the one in the Pixel. But how much of a difference does that really make while gaming? Well, I'll let you be the judge here, but here's which phone is which for this final test. What did you get for your score? There were 16 tests in total, so if you accurately guessed each phone, you would have a perfect score of 16 out of 16. Tally up your total and jump down in the comments to let me know how you did. But most importantly, were you surprised by any of these? Were there any that you were sure was the iPhone, but it turned out to be the Pixel, or vice versa? Let me know that in the comments too. Before you jump away, why not check out this video up here, which was entirely shot on a Google Pixel 10 Pro. That will give you an even better idea of its video performance. Also, please like and subscribe if you had fun with this video, and maybe I'll do another one. I'll see you all down in the comments.